Hello YouTube! I am Pinstar, and this is Dwarf Fortress Strategy and Tactics. So today's topic is nobility. More specifically, how to prepare for your first real noble, and how to please and placate them as well as also how to select them. Nobles, your first real noble. When I say real noble, we've been to the screen before, and we've assigned, certain leadership roles: militia commander, broker, bookkeeper. Those are technically nobles, but those are selective nobles. Those are nobles that you can assign and replace, and generally they don't really have very many requirements when it comes to personal buildings and whatnot. At most, we've needed to provide them with an office, which is not difficult. However, once you are above 20 dwarves in your fort and you have conducted more than 1,000 value worth of trade, you can see at the very top, imports from Bikodots is about 3,500. That's the human we traded with. And then the dwarves we traded about 1,000 with. So once you've gone over 1,000 total in trade, and you've got over 20 dwarves, you are going to qualify for your first real noble, which is a baron. Now, you won't actually get a baron until your dwarven civilization's caravan comes in the fall. We are currently in early autumn. The caravan has not yet arrived, but we're pretty sure that we're going to get assigned a noble. Couple of things that you want to do to prepare for this momentous event. First off, you want to sort of pre-select your noble, because they are going to ask, who do you want to nominate for this role? And who you pick is, there's a few things you want to do to sort of make sure you don't get a problematic noble. Certainly going by social skills and people who are already in leaderships are one way to do it, but there's something to be wary of: their preferences. Nobles will assign demands and mandates related to objects that they like. And depending on those objects, those demands and mandates can be a pain in the butt to fulfill if they prefer inconvenient things. So for example, if we go to their personality and preferences tab, what we're looking for are objects. And in this case, they like picks, leather armor, traction benches, and figurines. The picks, leather armor, figurines, that's not too much of a problem. The traction benches are going to be a bit of a pain in the butt. That means if we were to elect this person as our noble, they may issue a demand and say, I want 20 traction benches, which is kind of a pain because we don't really need 20 traction benches. They also will occasionally forbid the sale and trade away of traction benches, along with all these others. You want to find someone who either has no item preferences or who has preferences for things that you intend to produce anyway. Because if they demand that you make something useful, then, oh no, we were going to make that anyway. The other thing you want to keep an eye out for are traits. Even if they don't necessarily have great social skills right now, having the ability for good social skills, in this case the very good sense of empathy and good intellect here, that's one of the better things that you can have for your noble, because they're going to be leaning on those social skills pretty well. Now, if we take Valenrook here, if we go to their preferences, we've got gems, bolts, bucklers, grates, and scepters. Now, those aren't problematic because for example, bolts, we're going to want to produce a lot of bolts anyway, especially once we get a Marksdwarf squad going. So when they mandate the production of bolts, that's great. We make more ammunition. Bucklers, some shields down that we can eventually trade away. And then grates and scepters are, we can trade those away as well when they're not mandating that they not get traded. But they're easy enough to produce. So fulfilling their demands is not really going to be a problem. And besides, they like bismuth bronze. Who can fault them? So I'm earmarking Valenrook to be our noble once the time comes. But there's nothing you need to do until the caravan offers you the chance. But it's a good idea that before the caravan arrives, parse your dwarves, look at their personality, their wants and needs, and decide who is going to be your noble ahead of time. Now, the other thing you'll want to do is you're going to want to pre-build out the nobles' quarters. And it's not just their quarters. They have a lot of things that they demand. So you're going to want to build out 4 rooms for them. And the pattern that I've found useful here is we're going to give them all 3x3 rooms here, with little doorways in between. It is important that you put doorways in between, otherwise you get a penalty to the value of the room if it's not properly closed off. So this little pattern right here, 4 rooms, each 3 by 3 with a single tile door separating all of them, is the way I like to go here. Mark these for high priority. So we'll get this dug out, and it is imperative that you smooth the ground and the walls before you place any of your furniture. Just like you would a normal bedroom, but it's even more important here because we want to maximize the value of the rooms here. Speaking of furniture, there's going to be a lot of things that your noble is going to demand, so you might as well pre-build these things. So what I am doing here, if you have a blacksmith, and in this case Cameron Salisbury is our fort's best blacksmith, you want the blacksmith to be the one making these things. This is the list of things that you want to make in preparation for your noble, for your first baron. Obviously higher tier nobility are going to require even more things. And it does not have to specifically be Billin. Billin just happens to be our fort's economic stone. It's basically what you want is you want it made out of metal that is a little bit more valuable than just, baseline stuff. So, if you have gold, you could do gold. If you have silver, you could do silver. But generally, Billin is an alloy of copper and silver. So it's a bit more valuable than most. So that's the alloy that I've chosen. But generally, you want to make this out of fairly valuable, valuable stuff that might not necessarily be useful. I wouldn't waste your iron or steel on this. Make these out of something more fancy. So in our case, Billin, and an armor stand, 2 thrones, a weapon rack, a cabinet, 2 chests, a table, and a statue. Now, the other thing that we're going to do here, and again, this goes to wanting to achieve the correct value, is we want to bling these things out before we install them in the noble's room. So we have this metalsmith forge dumping into the gem and toys thing. Remember our finishing room from our previous video? Well, we've converted this so that we've added furniture of all types, metal, in our case Billin, but just mark whatever the metal that you're using for all these nobles furnitures pieces for just that. That way all the other like regular stone and wooden furniture in the fort doesn't get delivered here. Also, you are going to want to make a wooden bed. You generally can't make that out of metal, so just make that elsewhere in the fort to be delivered. Make a few of them so that way you have a chance of getting a higher quality bed that you can then deliver, because we obviously want the highest quality bed for our noble. So anyway, here we are going to, once we start getting some furniture in here, we're going to queue up an encrust furniture with cut gems. And that's going to start loading up our pieces of furniture with cut gems, which we can then deliver to the noble's quarters, or the would-be noble's quarters. Once we have our first item here, then we can queue up the encrust furniture with cut gems. Repeat job. Oh, also queue up the construction of 4 doors. You could make those out of Billin, but you could also just make them out of rock. Once they've encrusted the item with the gems, they're actually going to keep encrusting stuff, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Once all of this is carved out, we're going to want to smooth. You're also going to want to define these rooms. Here, what I would recommend, though the order here is not super important, you need to define a dining hall, which we're going to do for this first room up here. It's not going to qualify as one because we don't have the right objects yet, but we're just sort of setting the scene here. A bedroom, a tomb, and an office. Once all of your doorway areas are smooth, then you can pop your doors down here. We can select our beds afterwards, and once again, you want to select the highest quality of the beds. You can click these little arrows to see the detailed ones. Contrary to my previous mention, these 3 lines are the better quality than the asterisks. So go for one of these if you have one of them. All right, once your caravan arrives, you're going to get a diplomacy. There, your liaison. And here's the message that you get saying that they want to establish, basically having us as an official land of the realm, thus we become a barony. And yes, I scarcely believe this good news. I have some recommendations. And we mentioned before, we're going to go with Valenrook as our noble. And we decide what we want to buy. Oh, I don't know. Just get some wood. Maybe not even wood. Seeds. We'll go with seeds. Seeds are lightweight. And they want backpacks and seeds. What we want to do here is with all of our nobles' quarters, we want to assign, we don't want this to be a general use dining room. We want to assign that to our noble. They get their dining hall, they get their bedroom, they get their tomb, and they get their office all to themselves. Now, they're not going to be terribly happy with all this just yet because we haven't fleshed it out, but we're getting there. Okay, everything is smooth. Let's check on how our furniture shop is doing. Yeah, they've been just reapplying this. What I usually do is once stuff is ready, I will move the items out of here once they've been encrusted once. Otherwise, they just keep encrusting them. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but we want to spread the love, you know? So we have a throne and an armor stand. We can start fleshing out the office first, because we're going to want one of the items here, the throne, which is also known as chair. And then here we go to military. And even though they are not a military dwarf necessarily, we put the armor stand in there. It's just for value. The armor stand just needs to be in one of the 4 rooms. The armor stand is not specifically required for the office, but the office needs a few extra pieces of furniture to get its rating up high enough. And we have all of our furniture here, so let's re-up furniture with cut gems and go from there. All right, bill and table just got encrusted. We're going to put that in the dining room. Also, as a way to track of what you need here, if you click on your nobility, now we see a barony. There's our baron. And here are all their demands. And if they're yellow, that means they have the room assigned to them, but it's not good enough yet. And they also have more specific items that they want. Chests, cabinets, armor racks. But we're working on that. We're working on that. And as we place the items, the room values will go up. This is why we're bothering to do all of that encrusting. All right, got the throne. That is in total we produce 2 thrones. One goes in the office, one goes in the dining room so that they can eat. You need a total of 2 bill-in chests. We just got 1. One of them is going to go in their bedroom. All right, sarcophagus obviously goes in the tomb. That's basically going to be their final resting spot whenever they die. So you still need one even though they are still alive. It's under the burial button, sarcophagus. All right, we have the statue. The statue is needed to basically shore up any room whose value is not quite high enough. Generally, this is going to be the tomb and or the office. So we're going to put this particular statue in here. And depending on how your luck shakes out with the quality of items and the quality of encrusts and the gems used to encrust, you might need additional statues to bump up the value or just do engraving. That works as well. All right, got another chest. The second chest you want to place in your dining room. The cabinet goes into the bedroom. All right, we got the weapon rack. Weapon rack can technically go anywhere. Let's see which rooms are valuable enough and which ones are not. So we're gonna put the weapon rack in the office because that's the other room that typically needs help with value. The other thing you'll want to do is if the dwarf in question, you go under their rooms tab, you can see that they're still assigned to their old quarters. This one right here. So we want to actually remove them from this one. If there's somebody who is lacking quarters, then give that to them. Now, once all of their items are green, then they are happy and content with their accommodations. And once this little icon is no longer red, that means we have the minimum items that they want. 2 chests, a cabinet, an armor rack, an armor stand. Now, one last aspect to nobility, and this is what we were doing by pre-picking their preferences. When you see this little icon over here, that means they have a mandate, or a demand or a mandate. So here, the export of grates is prohibited. So not that we've been producing grates, but if we have any, we cannot trade them away. You can, but it actually just pisses the noble off and will. If you've gotten the justice system open, it will cause punishments for the dwarves that export the grates, and that just makes everybody angry. So best to not do that. But in this case, this isn't a problem because we pre-screen them for things that won't be annoying. If there was a demand, it would have said something like produce 4 bolts, in which case we would just need to produce 4 units of any type of bolts somewhere in the fort. Doesn't matter what. And the game will tell you when your nobles have new demands. So that is how you get yourself ready for a noble and keep them happy. Again, as you go up in fort size and power and strength and wealth, you're going to get higher tiers of noble who will be more and more demanding. Last thing, make sure the noble, your primary noble, has the best of everything in the fort compared to everybody else, because they will get upset if somebody else has a better bedroom or study or something like that. Also, yeah, just as a longer term thing, even though we have the rooms that we need, go ahead and mark them for engraving, just to make sure that at some point, when especially if the noble gets promoted and they get more demanding, you already have the extra value there. If you guys like this episode and you want to see more like it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. Your feedback's always welcome. So until next time, it's been Pinstar signing out. See ya!